This is Review Your Gear Radio with your hosts Chris Husted and Jason Renner. Coming to you with the latest topics, reviews, and techniques for hunting and fishing in the Midwest. And here they are, Chris and Jason. Take it away, boys.
Hello. Review Your Gear Radio. I'm Chris Husted.
I'm Jason Renner.
This is Season 4, Episode 15. I guess you could call it It's Almost Fall Edition. That's what I'm calling it. That's on impromptu. But
impromptu almost fall.
Yeah, you like that. It's actually some hot fishing topics, and the hunting season is rolling edition, but switch it up.
Well, you know, Starbucks released their fall drinks, so you can...
I don't drink Starbucks.
I know, but I'm... For God's sake, these up. Pumpkin spice latte.
Well, speaking of, we're talking about it's almost fall, but I mean, I think it didn't quite get to 100 here. I want to say it probably hit about 96.
Yeah.
But hot enough. So bees. I mean, I know it's the time of year. Every single year the bees get bad. No secret. They're a little bit worse this year, I think. Than normal.
I think the funny thing is I think up at Skakawea, up there, the flies are worse than the bees.
Mm-hmm.
But down here in Bismarck, and I talked to some people that were camping at one of the local campgrounds, and they said the wasps are terrible here. So, you kind of pick your poison up by the lakes. You got a ton of flies up there.
It's bad this year for flies.
I've never seen it that bad.
What's interesting, they're not biting flies for the most part.
No.
There's a couple. Like every once in a while you'll get one that bites, but they're like they mob your ankles.
Oh, God. Especially the ones that, hijack my truck for the ride home.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
They're all down on my ankles. You're driving down the road, especially when I was coming home Monday with the camper. You're trying to concentrate, all of a sudden just that annoying feeling and chewing on your ankle.
Nice.
And that's when they have the tendency to bite. And the one time I clicked the cruise off, and my wife's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm trying to get this fly on my ankle. It's driving me nuts." So
sure. Insects. Well, imagine too, if you're out hunting right now, that's just a part of it as well. Speaking of hunting season, obviously archery season is open. When I say open, I don't even know. Point is, my good buddy shot a huge velvet.
It was a beautiful buck.
It's posted on our social media on Facebook for Review Your Gear. The neighbor was a game warden, and he came over and unofficially scored it around 176.
Nice.
So what's interesting about the story is they have a lot of trail cameras. They have a pretty large ground that's just perfect for deer. A lot of creek bottoms, agriculture off it. I mean, just you name it. They got food plots. And while they usually watch typical places, they actually had a little radish patch right by their camp. And 2 nights before opener, they had it come in on their camera. And so they were like, whoa. So they moved all their vehicles. They changed everything so they wouldn't spook. Because he said he only had to set up maybe 200 yards from his front door.
Oh, jeez. So basically his backyard buck. Yeah.
And but they changed their routine for a few days to keep it, from getting spooked. He got it on film. He had a buddy come up and film the whole thing from on a ground blind, and looked like a good shot. Looked like it didn't go far.
So, that's. Did they get it on camera before?
2 nights before.
But they've never seen the buck before that.
Nope, not this. This one just came out of nowhere, let alone in their backyard.
The ghosts that they become.
Well, that's kind of how those things work, right? They're
big for nothing.
Right. But I've seen quite a few nice bucks taken already, kind of all over the place.
I've heard a few stories of the one that got away too. which is,
Oh yeah.
sneezing in the blind, swatting at a fly, and then all of a sudden, does bust them, or just
Right.
certain, just typical, early season stuff. But
Funny because if you like shut your door too loud or do something stupid, if you're afraid to spook, but I'm cruising with my boat down the highway, got the tunes blasting, I see a deer, put on the horns, they just look at you.
care.
Right, they don't spook.
Because while you're technically not really in their territory.
Yeah, I suppose.
You're not the monkey in their woods, as I call it.
I've never heard that before.
The monkey, you ever heard that?
No.
We're mammals or monkeys,
I'm picking it up. I'm picking up the vibes, sir. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Best way to catch salmon when they go shallow here in the fall?
Well, there's multiple ways to do it. And a lot of people pull, long lines. I still like to pursue them with downriggers. I'll run downriggers down 20 to 30 feet. Run spoons, run some herring, sometimes flashers and squids, usually bright colors. But, I like to run a mix and I'll run that. I'll run one crankbait. I'll let the fish tell me kind of what they want that day. You start getting something going, like if they're starting to hit cranks, you run cranks. I remember one Labor Day weekend, we found some fish in Dead Man's Bay, and we changed everything was white with white flashers, white squids, and then herring behind Dodgers. Had to be behind Dodgers. They wouldn't touch a herring other way. I don't know what it was. Is that back and forth motion? But we were basically catching them 10 to 20 feet down in like basically 20 to 40 feet of water.
Sure.
Inside the bay. It was fun. I mean, you want to talk about hand-to-hand combat. I mean, go grab that downrigger with only about 15 feet of line out. And, that's kind of why I like running mono. For salmon is you get that little better feel for fighting those fish, especially the fun part is when you're running shallow is they're right there by the riggers. But from what I hear, they're not running too shallow yet. Talked to a few guys that did very well today and still deep. So
well, it is again still hot. I would imagine. Of course, no biologist or salmon expert, but just going on the calendar, of course, as it gets cool here in the next week. I mean, I see the highs in the 70s,
lows in the 40s, 50s,
right? So it'll creep down.
But the other thing is it's. I think the other thing that pushes the spawn is even how short the days get. I think light amount of light penetration and all that stuff kind of says, okay, it's time to start thinking about what we were put on Earth for, and that was to reproduce. So that's what Sam think.
Sure,
but that's what I know.
Ain't much, colors. Not much.
Bright colors.
Bright colors.
Bright colors.
Not much.
Not much.
So last fishing term of the year is just over 2 weeks ahead.
And you're prepping for it.
We're already prepping.
You're pre-fishing for this.
Well, we weren't really gonna pre-fish. I'm not. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna fish probably Wednesday. I'll fish 3 days. Pre-fish for it.
Gotcha.
I have 3 different stretches of the lake I want to cover, and I'll probably just dissect it. And 3 different landings in 3 different days. Probably not much overlap, so I pretty much we already have our game plan, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it's really not a game plan. It's just to be really extremely flexible.
Yeah.
More or less just go fishing. Because it seems like every time, more often than not, the most common way I fail in a tournament is we rely too much, quote unquote, on spots. And spots just, I mean, there's a few quote unquote spots that are consistently
Correct.
but for the most part, of obviously fish swim, they move, you go to a spot, you're disappointed, then you gotta start moving.
So I know a lot of tournament fishermen are spot on the spot guys, but isn't sometimes just kind of treating the day like an everyday fishing trip sometimes the best thing to do? I mean, if your fish aren't there, it's
Well, you gotta remember, an everyday fishing trip isn't always just looking for big fish. You're usually looking for numbers.
correct. But I mean, you've had those days too where you're out in the water and
You stumble into something. Yeah, I get it. Yep. Yep.
And I don't know, maybe it's taking the pressure off yourself and relaxing and just doing the bowl dance.
We've been literally the last guy. It's a circular motion.
Circular motion.
The last few times out, I can't even tell you how many fish spots that we scanned. I mean, probably 40, 50 points an outing, easy. Humps, islands, you name it, just checking deep structure.
Look at you, Mr. Fancy Pants, with your side scan now.
I am pretty fancy.
How did you live without it?
When you get deep, it's not like it's the world's best thing.
No.
But when I like to say about 15, 16 feet, give or take, or less. Yeah, you got to have side imaging.
Correct. So
but we're not really in 15, 16 feet or less right now.
No. There's got to be a way to do that, though, in 40, 50, too, and get the benefits from it.
I'm going to claim ignorance. I just haven't spent enough time. I'm sure it would take as much as a simple Google search. Figure it out. Brenner, I have not done that yet. Maybe I should put that as a note. Google deep water side
imaging settings.
So, but yeah, with that being said, we're going to go out. We're going to have fun. I have a buddy coming from Minnesota to fish this tournament with me.
Look at you recruiting
a ringer. A good buddy of mine from over in Ottertail, Minnesota, Eric Gaudette, is coming over to fish. So we're going to have fun. That's all. We got a cabin. We're renting one of the cabins in Garrison. And yeah, nice laid back tournament.
Yeah, just have fun with it.
A lot of yard crafts. Let's have tales from the Chub Tank.
Tales from the Chub Tank?
Yeah. More chubbing to come. Miles was tempting me to want to go chubbing and get some for this weekend, just to kind of pre-fish, for lack of a better word, with them. Nah, I'm not going on my way for pre-fish chubs. That's a lot of...
Yeah.
If you only need 15 chubs for a day, what am I going to do? Go get just 15? And if I get, say, what we need in 2 weeks, then I got to keep them alive 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got to have fun. Then it's tough to go fishing.
Well, yeah, and it's also when it's 100 degrees, 90 degrees out, it's tough to keep that water cool.
It's supposed to cool off.
I ain't seen that.
The other thing is the wind is just supposed to blow flipping every day for the next week.
Except for Saturday.
Oh, they changed it now?
Yeah, Saturday is single digits.
Oh, I thought, they changed that. It was
Sunday, Friday, but in the middle is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
High of around 70.
Nice.
So, but with that being said, I'm trying to figure out how many chubs we'll need for this tournament. I doubt we'll need more than 30 or 40, and maybe another dozen or two to pre-fish, and that's way more than enough. But I'd like to pre-fish with them. Yeah, whatever we get. But I guarantee you, when the big 5-0-ish hits, we're done. Don't need to overdo it. So, yeah, switching my trolling rods to all mono.
Mr. Bread.
Yeah, I know.
His
So historically, I like braid for two solid reasons. One, it obviously dives the deepest. So Power Pro, with its line dammer, it's the thinnest, and which of course less drag in the water, which means your crank dives the deepest.
Correct.
So I can really get my cranks to their max. Also, I don't fish it as much lately due to the conditions, but I used to fish a lot of wahi, and it's snaggy down there.
Yeah.
And, if you really want to be pulling through some of that stuff, you needed to have something, a little bit stronger. That was historically, I guess, the reason I went to it. The one thing, though, about using no stretch line is you're putting it all on your drag of the reel. And while you can have that, perfected, how many times do you have someone on the boat that maybe forgets or it's just not set right for whatever reason? And what happens? You can lose the fish. It's rope. There's no, So I'm going to go back to a stretch. I'm going to go to the clearest line possible. Heck, if I want to use precision trolling again, I'm using what it's all rated for, 10-pound mono.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Okay.
You think you're going to lose maybe some being able to tell when you're running deep cranks, 20, 30 feet down, that vibration, the tail on the...
Here's the thing. What are you worried about? Hitting weeds?
Possibly.
Suspended.
Yeah. I mean, or stuff that breaks off or something like that.
Okay.
It
won't happen, but it's notable.
Oh, okay. I'll remember that.
No, but seriously, when you're not running along the bottom, obviously you're not worrying about following it up as much, if at all.
Correct.
So with that being said, and I'm going to be running a lot of boards, and I want to have a little extra forgiving stretch there.
Okay.
So
you're kind of falling in love with these board mittings.
Well, I'm simply testing on how much of a difference does it really make on spooked fish from the boat when you're trolling of any kind.
Okay.
People who use down imaging are, watching fish spook constantly from the boat. I have some, which is kind of an interesting way to put it, but I had a walleye pro tell me, 2D is a hoax. And I'm like, oh yeah, why is that? He said, because you maybe see a third of the fish that you're going over because they just go outside the cone.
True.
From spooking the boat.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. When you think about it, it makes sense. Or how many of those marks do you see that are faint? That are just on the edge of the cone?
Yeah. That barely show up.
Yep.
3-4 dots.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, food for thought anyways. Mr. Renner, I also have another question for you. What is the best way to maintain leeches for the long term?
I'm telling you, the best way we used to do them was we get these huge styrofoam coolers and just use rainwater and just keep them in the backyard.
You didn't keep them in the fridge?
No, didn't need to.
Why?
Those big coolers, and you just change rainwater in. It was deep enough. It was never had issues with leeches dying.
Huh.
Never had. In fact, we had them even. We'd always buy pounds of leeches at a time. And, when they say that they die off after they spawn, they do. I mean, we'd have a die off, but all of a sudden we'd have a bunch of tiny leeches in the freaking cooler.
Right.
So, you must have been doing something right if they're able to
do their thing.
But, I mean, it was, just a big cooler, and, Dad just kept, he'd open up the top during the mornings for about an hour. And there was just enough algae to build up on the sides of the coolers to feed them.
Okay.
And we kept leeches in those things all through the summer. Never had an issue.
I still would probably want to keep it in the garage, I think, though. Just keep them a
Little
little
bit
cooler.
I mean, they were in the shade underneath the tree, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I fished the 90s on Sakakawea. I don't think I ever used a night crawler. We used leeches almost exclusively.
Okay. Okay. Well, right now, of course, having a leech out here is pretty invaluable. I mean, supply and demand. You're not going to find them.
Yeah, there's none.
You know, if you can find a leech in North Dakota right now, commercially, don't tell anyone. Buy them up and then resell them on marketplaces for like $20 a container.
Yeah, because you could.
You probably actually could. Well, it's time for a break. We'll be right back here on Review Your Gear Radio. And we're back here on Review Your Gear Radio. Have you noticed the first signs of the waterfowl migration?
Like I said, a couple weeks ago, I seen some lessers on Sakakawea.
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
The other thing I really kind of noticed is I'm starting to see the teal on the ponds back, driving back, or they're kind of, you can tell they're getting the itch. They're starting to grip up heavy. So that I think
I'm starting to see my first groups coming off, honkers coming down from the north. So I've seen a few flocks that you can tell, like where they're coming from, it wasn't the river.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see. I do know guys up in Saskatchewan are doing really well. But the snow geese, of course, it's a little early still. So the Rossies are mostly the ones coming down so far.
The little guys.
But they're knocking the you-know-what out of them up there so far. So I'm waiting to hear what the actual... Because I guess it varies by colony for the snow goose hatch.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to see... Hey, dogs fighting. Dog fight. I guess we'll have to see, how the hatch went. I'm also curious, what the bird flu, and we'll talk more about that in a bit in headlines, but how that's going to affect things. So let's have a Mille, man.
This is your Mille Minute. You can keep one fish.
Walleye.
One walleye, sorry. One either over 26 or one in the slot.
What is it again?
Slot is 18 to 22. Yeah. So you can keep one walleye. One tackle. One tackle.
One.
You can't even have leftovers from fish game.
Can you imagine putting your boat in, going all the way out, dropping your line, popping a 23, and then turn around and go home?
Well, some guys that brag about how fast they catch a limit. Kind of fits their... I got my limit by 8:30 and I was off the water. What the heck did you do the rest of the day?
Right. I went out there first cast. Coming in. Outside the slot. I will say, though, in Waterfowl, one time up in Canada, everyone has had a day where the birds just come, but I remember this like it was almost yesterday. 4 of us shot our snows. I walked to the vehicle, and I remember as I was grabbing the keys under the back tire, I turned over and I was watching the sunrise.
You're done.
Yeah, we were literally done in like 20 minutes.
And back then, what was it, 50 birds?
20 birds a piece.
20 birds? Okay.
So it was 80 birds. But, yeah. I mean, they were coming hot. It was hot. Grouse and Partridge opener.
Correct. Opens this weekend. Boy, it was hard for me to find information. I looked at Minnesota. I looked at Montana. I looked at North Dakota. I looked at South Dakota for just information on how the hatches, bird numbers were. Boy, not a whole lot of info out there.
I'll tell you something. This year, I've probably seen more partridge this summer than I have I'm trying to think, what has it been, 30 years? Seriously, 30 years.
God.
92. Because 93 is when it all went down and most of them died.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that was used to be. You go out and you'd shoot a limit of grouse and partridge almost every time this year.
we used to scout snow geese up in the northwest part of North Dakota, and October, you always, I mean, it wasn't if, it was like, how long would it take to shoot your, even if there's 6 of us or whatever. I think it was 5 apiece back then for partridge. I mean, that's 30, and the eats, I mean, it's considered a bonus bird, but you tell me what's going to fare better on a table. What wild bird than a partridge?
It's my favorite. So.
It's the best.
Yeah. I did see quite a few of them. I drove that stretch from Minot to Crosby.
Yep.
And last kind of winter, and I did see quite a few of them up in that area.
I'm seeing them all around the Big Lake.
Huh. That's good to see.
I saw them on the north end when we were up fishing this summer. One day we saw like 3 coveys in a small area.
Yeah.
Kind of right by the park, right by Partial, by the campground.
Huh.
Just, yeah. I mean, there was even one group that was in the campground. I mean, it's cool to see, given the history of partridge. And, of course, how hard they had it.
Just east of town.
Yeah. Oh.
It's been...
When I was a kid, we used to drive from Fargo all the way to Wing for Grouse and Partridge opener.
Yeah.
And just for the day, we drove all the way out there just for Grouse and Partridge, came home. Now, I know a few people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but growing up, my mom made grouse so many ways, and I did not usually care for it. I mean, it was okay.
It's gamey.
It's gamey, but it's like almost drier. It's at least the way my mom always made it. She baked a lot of stuff, and no matter how she did it, it just always was. I don't know. It wasn't my favorite.
I
just give me the partridge.
Yeah, give me. Well, we fought over the partridge in our family because I don't know who always joked about Dad always get the biggest piece of chicken.
Yep.
Well, Dad always got his choice of the partridge. I mean, my dad loved partridge just as bad, but I have not. I mean, there's been times where I just drove 10 miles east of town, shot a limit of partridge, and went to class.
Oh, nice.
I mean, there used to be partridge all the time out there.
Yep.
And you just don't. I don't see them around anymore.
No, but I'm staying positive that the numbers, because they do seem to grow pretty fast.
Correct. I think they have pretty big clutches. Wow.
And the groups that we've been seeing have been pretty large, like 20 plus, everyone.
So,
it's good to see. I can't talk enough about my love for partridge. I mean, and for a waterfowler, it's a great pairing because, at night when you're scouting, they're around the roads.
Yeah.
They kick up 30, 40 yards. You walk them up. It's easy.
That's the one thing, like a grouse, especially the Sharpies around here, they'll fly for miles.
Oh, yeah.
And partridge will just go
we'll just go over here in the ditch. Yeah. Usually when you kick up grouse, it's like you must just keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to watch them for? They're going to go into the next county often.
Correct. And you just hope that there's one of the dumb ones that stayed behind.
Right. Let's get into some headlines. This one really irks my... Yeah. The USDA bans the imports of waterfowl by hunters from Canada. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you already know this. This came out literally hours before the opener on September 1st. And what's interesting is this article I'm posting on the site comes from Forbes.com. And it's basically mocking the USDA in the article. If you read it, which is pretty obvious, right? Why are you doing this when there's estimated at roughly 4 billion migratory birds coming in from Canada?
Yeah, it's how does stopping the harvested stuff gonna they're coming no matter what.
I hate to say it, and we're not going to go far down this road, but I have a feeling politics played something into this decision.
Well,
it certainly wasn't science and biology solely.
No, I can tell you, I had a conversation with a certain biologist I know very well, and he just thinks it's ridiculous.
Right.
But he thinks, and I tend to agree that it's being pushed by the poultry industry. And it's just ridiculous.
No, it just makes no sense. It's just dumb. It just disgusts me. So let's move on. Dove hunters way down in North Dakota. Are you familiar with how far down the dove hunter numbers are in North Dakota? 40 years ago in the 80s, they had over 20,000 dove hunters in the state of North Dakota. Do you know what we have now?
7.
We have about 7,000. So it's about a third of what it was 40 years ago.
Well, I'm going to be honest, most of my dove hunting land that I used to hunt is developed.
Okay. To be also fair, how many kids you know nowadays are looking forward to dove hunting?
I know of 4.
Yeah, that's my point. You can count in one hand.
Yeah.
Back in the day, like everyone I knew was out hunting.
Yeah.
It was like, it's just what you did.
Hey, where are you guys going? Which way?
I'm going down, growing up in Fargo and I was in high school, I drove down the Sandhills and back, like after school on the regular.
Yeah. That's how fast I could get home. And
if anybody has a solution to said problem, I'm all ears. Really unfortunate, there's a hunting accident that happened that sentenced a man to 2 years in prison. A gentleman, where was this located again? Youngstown. Okay, I already forgot. It was that important, that part. But
Youngstown, PA.
Basically, he discharged a firearm that ended up bouncing and going into a home and hitting a guy in the foot. And he did pay for all the restitution for the medical bills. But he's still getting it 2 years for an hunting accident.
2 years.
2 years.
Boy, don't shoot somebody in Ohio.
Just be careful where you're shooting. Fantasy Walleye Angler Draft. Who would you pick and why? Are you talking about for next year?
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's, let's be honest, it's fantasy football season.
Yeah.
You don't do it. Yeah. I just threw this out there going, if you had one guy, or you could pick a team of 3 to fish the tour next year for points.
Yeah. It'd be easy.
Throwing $20. Who would you pick?
Honestly, if we're going to base it just on this year.
Okay.
Not any other year. Or not over history, but based on this year, I think you have to go with Dwayne Helm.
Okay.
I mean, beast. Also, who else would? There's so many pros that are good, but that kind of rotate.
Correct.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, depends on any given week type of thing. Yeah, you're right. I saw Devil's Lake as the championship. We'll talk about that at some point. But okay, I could cheat and go. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of casting. We'll give one to Hoyer, and honestly, I'm going to throw a huge curveball.
Okay.
I'm going to assume one of that foursome out of Minnesota that kicked butt this year in all the events is going to go pro. I don't care which of the 4 it is. I got money on that guy.
Yeah, you got whoever does that.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. I see you. I see what you're putting down.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to name names. I mean, I can.
Yeah.
It's just, those guys. I mean, all you have to do is look at any AIM tournament or
Yeah.
a lot of those big tournaments. The names are at the top every time.
Correct.
So, how about you?
I'm taking Sprinkle.
Sprinkle.
Given.
Corey, yeah.
Corey. Taking Corey. I'm probably going to do Tommy Kimos.
Ah.
I just he's a great guy. Watched him win a world championship or world walleye here in town. The other guy I'm gonna throw underneath there that I think it favors. I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon of the local boy. I take Jacob Bell.
Attaboy.
I think Jake's gonna have a good year with the way things are kind of the lakes that they're fishing. I think he's got a good shot.
He's very consistent.
He's gotta crack that. I mean, his strength is lake fishing. I mean, he loves the lakes. He loves especially the big water. He seems to do well on the Great Lakes and stuff. And I think being Devil's Lake is a championship. I think he's got a little bit of shot of some local knowledge, and I think next year's his year.
Okay. I got a big question for you, Jason.
What's that?
What's cooking on the stone?
What's cooking on the stone?
I'd love to say bacon, because we eat so much. I'm surprised my kids don't ever get baconed out. I mean, we eat a lot of bacon, but chicken parm.
Oh, you did the chicken parm on there?
Did chicken parm.
How'd that turn out? I've been wanting to do chicken parm on there.
It was amazing. I found a recipe. I altered it just a bit. Breadcrumbs and panko, a little bit of flour, salt, pepper, Italian seasoning.
No cheese in the...
Yes, I put a little bit of Parmesan in there.
See, I put Parmesan in my bread.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but I put... And then when I topped it, usually it's mozzarella. This time I mixed mozzarella and provolone.
I love provolone.
So do I. Yep.
It's just that little hint of smokiness. Oh, it's great.
Over spaghetti noodles.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Add a little
I still have extras. I mean, I made a huge batch, about 3.5 pounds.
That may be on the docket for
It's really not hard.
Oh, no.
You know.
And it's cheaper than going to Olive Garden.
Is it, though? I bet if you add up all the weird ingredients, like, by the way, where do you find fresh basil in town? That's a pretty important outdoor topic.
Fresh basil?
Yeah.
I usually buy it in the coolers in the grocery stores. They all have it. It's in by the lettuce and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. Garlic.
I gotta look again, because I was looking at the fresh produce.
Yeah. No.
Like where the cilantro and the parsley and stuff is.
No, you gotta look over in the lettuce section, per se, where the garlic is and stuff.
Makes sense, sir.
But the other question I have for you is not the best thing for making breakfast.
Oh, of course.
So,
well, because you can do everything at once. Throw your bacon. First thing I always do is I start with hash browns.
Correct.
I throw the hash browns on first because I want them and plenty of time to get crispy. And then I start with my bacon, and then I finish with eggs.
I like doing pancakes too. I love pancakes on the stone.
I have not done pancakes on the stone yet.
What?
Yes.
Are you kidding? That's blasphemy.
I've gotten. We used to do so many pancakes and waffles that I think we just needed a break. I think it's time to bring it back.
I've even done Eggo waffles on the stone.
Oh, really?
Just reheated them on there.
Yeah.
A little butter on there.
Why not?
It was delicious.
Sure it was. What are okay. When I see you brought this topic up, best wild game eats. Now,
end on food.
We always end on food. So let's break it down by category. I think we've already cheated. Best upland game.
Yeah. Partridge.
Partridge. Okay, we both agree that's no secret.
No.
Best waterfowl.
Ooh. I am going to go. Ooh, this is close, but I'm going to say sandhill crane.
Yeah, that was going to be mine too.
Yeah, it was close. I do like speckled bellies.
Speckled bellies are good. The one thing about crane is whenever I've had it, we literally took the breast, seasoned it, and threw it on the grill like a steak. No marinade, just did its thing, and it was amazing every time.
It's like bearing a beef.
You obviously you can't overcook it.
No.
Cook it medium at most.
Medium rare.
Medium at most, but medium rare is typically.
Yeah.
Now, best big game.
Okay. I know what you're going to say.
Actually, it's sometimes a coin flip, but go on.
I love antelope.
Antelope. Okay.
Antelope, backstraps, by far my favorite wild.
Okay. Honestly, the dog should start barking here any second. They got that look. Maybe a little sparrows. It's kind of a coin flip for me between elk and moose. I've had really good elk and I've had really good moose. Speaking of, I keep forgetting I have elk in the freezer. But
you're holding out.
I think I might have to bring it for this next fishing trip. But with that being said, have you ever had bad moose or elk?
No. And I've had great moose burgers. I've had great elk steaks. Elk backstrap is pretty close to antelope in my vote. Given most of the elk backstrap I've had is farm raised, which isn't quite as gamey as wild shot. I don't know. I just can't believe there's some people that don't like the flavor of pronghorn.
It also could be how they've made it.
Could be.
Maybe overcooked it. Who knows? It's like waterfowl. If you mess up, you can easily screw up waterfowl, and it can go from pretty good to pretty bad pretty quick. So if you feed someone bad, what are they going to say? Oh, it's terrible. And what are they going to think about next time someone offers it to them? Oh, it's terrible.
It's terrible. Yeah. I've had that discussion where we've shot some pintails early season, and I've cooked them like steaks, even putting them in SE's South American sauce.
Yep.
And the guys are like, "Oh my god, this is so good!"
Right.
Yeah, duh.
Right. It's all in the prep.
Yeah.
It's just all in the prep. I grew up with a gentleman. To be fair, he's such a good guy, so I'll keep him nameless since I'm riding him. He would grossly overcook our waterfowl on the grill every single time. It would be tough. And it would be like, it'd be well done. Literally. Like, there's not a hint of pink even. And it was not good.
There's somebody in my family like that overcooks.
You can't do that.
Oh, I just love them. Love them.
But here's the thing: does the same individual overcook like steaks?
Yes.
Oh, so it's a bad cook problem.
No, it's just he doesn't like pink meat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See,
burgers, steak, anything. It's got to all be done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just a different taste. I thought you were just saying someone had a knack for overcooking their food.
No, he for somebody that does cook overdone stuff, his stuff usually does taste pretty good.
Sure.
I'll give him that much credit, but
it's really tough to make wild game delicious when it's well done.
Yeah,
take your pick. It's all pretty tough.
Everybody's choice. I just disagree.
Well, we kept it real here on Review Your Gear Radio, and we ended it on food. And I think it's time for a snack. I'm Chris Husted.
I'm Jason Renner.
This was Review Your Gear Radio.
Thanks for tuning in to Review Your Gear Radio. Be sure to tune in next episode, and don't forget to check out reviewyourgear.com. Also, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Till next time, tight lines and good times in the outdoors.